we'll get started on the tour shortly.
Have fun. Come back and tell us your stories.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Tell us what you see.
Be careful.
If you come back alive. Just kidding. And if you don't come back alive, well, then that's even the perfect ghost story.
We'll come find you.
That's
Don't
right.
worry.
We'll find you. I heard the tour guides have a lot of stories, so we'll have to catch the tour guides. Yeah. Well, I probably should have prefaced everything. So this is Jas. This is Giving Up the Ghost podcast. I am joined tonight with Ashley, Kelly, and Jess from the Winnipeg Paranormal Group, and we are at Lower Fort Garry for the Ghost Walks. Ghost Walks, is that the best way to describe it?
Yeah, or ghost tours, whatever.
Ghost Tours, and we have Carolyn, who's organizing and running the show with the Friends of Lower Fort Garry. Thanks.
Hi, everyone.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for coming out. We're very excited to have you guys out here.
It's, you know what, like this place is like the ultimate spooky place. I've been on many tours here before, like in the daytime, nighttime, square peg tours. I've been here. So.
Well, it's such I love the site because we don't really have to do anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's got the history, it's got the corners, it's got the shadows, and it just makes itself its own spooky, experience.
Right.
We like to add a little spooks when we're here because it's more fun when someone's rattling the door or a window. But yeah, if you just wander through here at night, you're just like, I can hear things behind me.
You don't have like jump scares or anything like that?
No, like someone's not going to come out in your face.
Right.
But what will happen out there is we have some volunteers. So when a ghost story is told and they could hear their footsteps, someone will like be in the back of the building, like stepping loudly or something like that.
That could be fun.
Yeah,
Nice.
ambiance stuff. And then there'll be like a few, like someone will rattle a door or slam a door in the building just randomly to just make people like jump scare, but not like out at your face.
Yeah.
So it's not like Six Pines. The
Right.
stories we have here are stories.
Of
They
course.
are stories that have been passed down from either security guards or previous, costumed interpreters or maintenance staff and stuff like that. So they are real stories, and that's what we love about it.
Right, cool. So is tonight sold out?
Tonight is sold out. Pretty much we're sold out almost for the season now.
Nice.
So we've got a couple tickets left, I think, on the 28th and the 29th. We've opened up to Sunday because people are wanting to come in. So if you need it, like if you want to come, you got to get tickets. So it's at folfg.com. So that's Friends of Lower Fort Garry. And that's where you go and get them beforehand. There's no walk-ups usually.
Yeah, no, sweet. And the tour guides, I hear they have their stories, right? Like they have their own stories.
Yeah, like I think the tour guides that we have here, a number of them are costumed interpreters, so they work here in the summer.
Okay.
And everyone has their own little experiences. You spend some times on here where you're cloudy or rainy days, or times that you're alone because your coworker that you're with is off for lunch.
Right.
And so you'll have this experience, or you'll hear something and be like, did I hear something over there? And then you're not sure, and they sort of pass it off until it happens 3 or 4 times.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And you have stories as well.
Yeah. So I started out working for the Friends of Lower Fort Garry when I was 15 in the restaurant and then the gift shop and then with the day camp, and then I transitioned over to Parks Canada and worked there for a number of years. So I started here in 2000. So I've been doing this for many, many years.
You're a lifer, and you're only like 25.
Yeah, thank you. That's good. I like that. That's right. I'm only 25. So I have spent a lot of time here and I really like it. I love the site. I think it has some great history and knowledge for the community and has great energy. And so over those years, I've done almost all of the tasks that are done here, aside from probably maintenance.
Yeah.
There's things that have happened and I've been a part of, and one of the things I always tell when I do give a ghost tour is the feelings or the experiences that I've had on the site here are not, I never felt like I'm in danger.
Right.
So that's a great feeling, right?
And that's important to stress because, no matter if, speaking with the ladies I think we can all say that no matter where you go or what you feel, if it's good energy or bad energy.
Right.
Right.
So, I always feel like, I can feel something, or I feel someone that's watching or here because they're interested in what we're doing, but not necessarily like they're going to hurt me or
Yeah.
I have, however, in the warehouse building had a feeling of, I need to leave.
Oh.
I'm just not wanted.
Okay.
Like I just don't want to be here alone right now, and I just left.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like, I'm going to get hurt. It was more like, they want their space.
Yeah.
And that's the building that was Manitoba's first insane asylum and Manitoba's first penitentiary.
Okay.
So it's got a lot of history behind it. And
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
actually, underneath the ground, we found isolation cells that are like 6 feet tall, 6 feet long, and 2 feet wide.
Oh, God.
Carved out of the earth.
Now, do you do tours of those?
No, you can't. So when Parks Canada was restoring the site,
Mm-hmm.
and they were like looking at all the footings and foundations to make sure they were safe for people to go through, when
Yeah.
they were going down there, that's how they found them. And then what
Wow.
happened is it started to crumble. So they had to fill it in. Yeah. So actually, if you ever look in the warehouse, you'll see like one corner is a little bit slanted down, and that's why. So there's one. If you have the right guide when you're here, and it's there's time,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can pull up a floorboard and look, like pull your head down underneath it. But you can't go in there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But I can't even imagine like being in this dank, dark area.
We're like, we want to go in there.
Yeah, like it's super small. Like it would be claustrophobic for sure, right? And then dark, and then moisty, dampy earth smell all the time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No one wants
Yeah.
that. So.
Cool.
I want that.
Well, we're not gonna do it tonight, but that's a possibility sometime in the future.
Yeah,
Try to get it.
for sure, for sure.
That would be very cool. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, like, and as far as like the Friends of Lower Fort Garry, how was that started? How did you organize that? How
So
did that?
the organization started in 1985, so that was
It was, eh?
before
Okay.
me. that was when I was born. Then you can all
there
figure
you
out
go.
my age now. So they started it because they wanted something that would help the site here and do stuff with the community and help out with things. So they that sort of rolled on. And then what happened is in 2013, all of those members were starting to get quite elderly.
Of course, yep.
And they are like, we don't want to do this anymore. And so they were all in their 70s. And they're like, well, guess we'll shut it down. And very luckily, a group of us that had worked at Lower Fort Garry that loved the site were
Right.
like, you know what, we can't let this happen. And we had all sort of graduated, because all of us were university students, and then this was our summer job. So yeah, we're like, you know what, let's work together and do this. So Ben, who just walked by me, is the vice president. So we work together, and we're really good friends. And most of us on the board are really good friends, and have some connection to this. But you don't have to. We have a number of board members that don't. They just want to help out with the historic
Nice,
site. So
nice.
we have a lot of fun. So that's one of our big things within the board and within the organization is we want people to come out and enjoy themselves and enjoy the site too when they volunteer with us and
Right.
just really meet people and have fun. And so yeah, we banded together, we took over the organization, and we started to take it in a more modern sort of direction, right?
For
so
sure.
as of course when we took over, just under 30s, we're like, okay, people want to come out and enjoy the site and do things. So we've really tried to bring up. So one of the things we used to do is we used to have a tavern on site for some of the different tours
Yes,
that
I remember seeing that.
yeah, so which we called the Thirsty Beaver Tavern, because our mascot is, we have a stuffed beaver that we call Justin Beaver.
Oh,
It's like a super cute little thing that we have.
so
So we
funny.
play around with that. We love doing that. And so then we also do, we'll do a market in this winter. We did a big harvest fest in summer. This last year we did a big car show and like 1920s era
Wow.
type stuff.
Nice.
So we change it up. We try to have fun, and we generally have a bar with it because, why not?
Sure.
That's right.
yeah, yeah, gotcha. Well, it's interesting. Okay, cool. Yeah. So, yeah, like once some people come through and if they've got stories, like if the guides are comfortable telling us
Yeah,
stories.
I hope they really do. I hope
Yeah.
we get some people coming through and we get some visitors. I know we've got a couple of repeat visitors, I think, tonight, so they may be able to give some stories.
Nice.
And the guides, of course, because they worked on there, and yeah.
Yeah.
But
And have you seen anything that's other than feeling? Have you seen anything?
yeah, so I have a couple of stories that are my experiences, and then I've got
Yes.
a couple that have been told to me by coworkers. So my personal favorite one is the lady in the purple dress.
Oh,
So in the big house, which is the big central house and building, and that's where all the officers of the company stayed with the Hudson's Bay Company, so those are the high-ranking men.
Right.
It's actually more of, one could say, like a boarding house for them. So there was 3 different families in there in the 1850s. And so in that building, when we're costumed, we have certain rooms that we're stationed at, and that's just so that we can see visitors, we keep an eye on things, it's definitely, so we're spaced out throughout the house. So in the very back of the house is the business office, and we tend to be, when you're back there, you're sort of by yourself. And so what you do is you're like, okay, if there's no visitors, it's a rainy day, you have something with you. You either got a book that you're reading,
Yep.
or you're doing, so when I was here, the cell phones weren't a thing. So you're like, oh, I got a book, or I've got a Sudoku puzzle, or I'm writing a letter to another building, because that's how we talk to each other. And then send
Okay.
it off with a child who's visiting to take this over to the fur loft, and you'd write letters to each other.
cool.
So it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun.
That would
And
be
we-
so cool.
Yeah, so
love
fun,
that.
right? Like,
Yeah.
the kids love it, and we always try to make when we send the letter, we always tried to make them like do something. So it was sort of like a little bit of a dare.
Okay.
Within reason, it would be like, oh yes, you're supposed to give this child a high five and take them upstairs, and they're like, okay, like cute little things like that.
Yeah.
So,
That's so fun.
yeah, so I was sitting back there, and I'm pretty sure I was just reading a magazine, and it was a darker day, and so I didn't think much of it, and so I was sitting there. And one of the things you're trained to as an animator is you're trained to listen for steps or voices, so that you know when someone's coming, and you can like tuck your modern thing away, right?
right.
And then get ready to be back in character. So I heard some steps, and I saw someone walk by the doorway. And I thought, okay, someone's coming. So I didn't look up because I was like, they'll come in, that's fine, I'll tuck it in. And I got up to talk to them, and I didn't see someone. So I walked over and I looked around, and I didn't see anything. I was like, okay, maybe my eyes are just playing tricks on me, right? And that's generally what we do, is just like, whatever. Most of us, I think, dismiss things like that.
Yeah.
So then throughout that afternoon, as I was sitting there, it happened a couple of times, and I started to pay more attention to it. And what it looked like to me was actually like I could remember the color purple, and then I remember it was like a big dress. So if anyone's been out here, our costumes are rather large, so they take up a lot of space. We have that bell skirt, right? And so you can see them, and they take up room, and they tend to just make it through doorways, for example. So I remember thinking, okay, I remember seeing a dress swoosh by. So it's either a visitor in a purple dress, but it seems like there's too much clothing for modern day.
Sure.
And I thought, oh, maybe it's a coworker. Right? They're manding through, or they're running by, or they're trying to play a prank on me or something. So in my head, I'm trying to go through. I'm like, I don't know anyone in a purple dress. Okay, whatever. Maybe there's a new costume out. So I go up to the front to talk to them. Like, have you guys been coming back? And they're like, no. I'm like, oh, okay. And so then I just sort of let it go.
Right.
So fast forward maybe a week or two, and I'm sitting in another part of the fort, and we're talking about stuff, and someone says, oh yeah, I always see someone when I'm in the back office. And I was like, oh, what do you mean? And told me a very, very similar story to what I had experienced. And I hadn't told anyone because I was like, maybe I'm just making up things. Maybe I'm just dehydrated or tired or whatever, right? So then we talked about it, and then other people said they've seen someone walk by, and it looks like a costumed interpreter. So we are like, oh, is there someone coming to see me from up front, or is it one of my coworkers, and they're just coming to say hi because it's a slower day or whatever, right? Visiting. But there never is that person. So if you ever go on the site, you'll know what room I'm talking about at the back, because there's little stairs that come up the outside, and you can hear them walking up the steps and see the purple through the window, and then no one's ever there. So
Interesting.
that's
Very cool.
probably one of my favorites, because that's happened to me. The other one that's common within the big house, I spend a lot of time in the big house, so I tend to have more stories from there.
Yeah.
Was we have
The big house.
downstairs, we have a modern kitchen. And that's because in the back, if we actually want to make food that we want to give to visitors, we try to have some modern preparation so it's food safe, right? And then we have like a fridge to store our milk in and stuff so that we're all healthy.
Sure.
So back there we have lights, and so they burnt out one day, and we called our maintenance team. We said, oh, we just need new lights. Okay, fine, we'll be by. So he went in before we opened up the building, and he said, I was in there and I was working. He says, I was working putting the fluorescent light in, and I heard a creaking, and I looked over, and there's a historic coffee urn, or mill,
Oh,
a
yeah.
grinder.
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
if you've seen them.
Yeah.
They have those big, cranky arms that you go all the way around. He says the arm went from the bottom and all the way around 360 degrees by itself and back to the bottom.
Oh, wow.
He's like, there was no way it was like a shift or like, just moved or like wind or something. He's like, it literally went all the way around.
Yeah, yeah.
And he says, and I was just like, hey, I'm just changing a light, don't worry.
Yeah, yeah.
Because the maintenance guys are definitely
Sure.
here at all hours by themselves.
Right.
So they
Yeah.
always have things, they're like, hey. And actually, that's one of the things that I've started to do is I always say hello when I go into a building. I'm like,
Yeah.
hi,
Yeah.
I'm just here to pick this up, or check something out, or I'm just dropping stuff off because I'm like, hope things are going well. I don't know. I mean, they're
Of course.
residents here too.
Yeah,
They
that's
deserve
right.
to be nice,
Yeah,
right?
that's
So-
right. It's their place.
I love that though.
Yeah.
So my last story was when I was in the warehouse building. I was stationed in there to do We Are Making Dolls when kids walk through, and it was a really rainy day. And I remember just sitting there, and I remember hearing like the window slam upstairs, and I thought, I don't remember leaving that open because it's raining. We don't want rain in the buildings,
Of course.
obviously.
Right.
So I wandered up there, all the windows were closed, and I thought, maybe it's a coworker pulling a prank on me, because these are things that happen. So these are the first steps that my brain goes to. But the back door was locked, so they couldn't get in that way, and the only way they could get in was past me, because I was at the bottom in front of the stairs.
Right.
And I remember going back downstairs, and I was like, oh, that's sort of weird. And then I just got the feeling of just leave.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it was like, I want my space, or like, I just need to be, I'm like, okay, cool. And I just got up and I like walked over to the front of the big house, and everyone's like, oh, what are you doing? I'm like, just can't be in there right now.
Yeah.
You know, and it was just one of those things. So, and that's the one that's got a lot of history with like sounds and noises and really just, I guess, really unsettled feelings, right? Because it's got a lot of history to it.
Yeah.
So, so that's a
Cool.
new building. And that's the one I generally on tours find that most of the visitors don't want to go in.
Was that the jail? Was that the one? Oh, yeah.
That's the jail.
Yeah.
So it was Insane Asylum before Selkirk Mental Health was built.
Oh, okay.
And then it was the jail before Stony Mountain was built.
Okay. Because I went on a tour with Square Pigs and we did table tipping. And I remember Kristen said, make the table walk towards Jas. And then you hear it going, and then the table like came towards me.
Yeah.
And there was like nothing left. I'm like, okay, you can stop now. It was in that place. Yeah.
Well, that's the one too. I don't know if you guys saw the Ghost Hunters International one.
I
Show?
think so,
Okay,
yeah.
so they did a show with it, and I was the one that they interviewed. So
Okay.
I worked with them, and that's actually to me, the most interesting find that they had was that building. Because when they were in there and talking to them, there was like, are you an inmate? Were you living in the area? And then they hear a clink, like someone like hit one of the posts.
Okay.
And so then they said, if that was you, hit it twice, and then there was two very distinct twice to hit.
Oh, yeah.
So to me, that was like the most like there's something in here, and I
Right.
don't think any of us could disagree with that.
Right.
So,
Cool.
yeah.
And you've been here many times and investigating too, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
yeah,
Sweet.
like, there's always new things coming out here, and there's always things that we find out. And there's one story in the Ross cottage that when they were restoring it, the workers were pretty much getting everything together, and the construction men and all that, and finalizing stuff. And they came in one morning and locked the door and found their place in a mess. Their tools were everywhere, their stuff was everywhere. And then when they wandered through, they could hear crying, and they found a little girl in one of the rocking chairs.
Oh,
And one of them approached her to say, like, what's wrong? And she looked up and disappeared.
jeez.
And they all, like, booked it out of there.
No
Like,
kidding.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
freaked out, right?
Yeah.
So they tell us the story, or they tell the story to someone. It's not me. This was many years ago. And there was like, well, that doesn't make sense. We didn't have kids in there. Like, there was a guest cottage for officers. You know, the youngest probably was like 18 that came with their parents, type of thing, right?
Right,
One of
right.
the girls. So it never really made sense to us. And then they further investigated and found out that after the Hudson's Bay Company was here, when there was like a cholera outbreak, they would put them in there so they wouldn't spread it.
Okay.
The kids would go in there. So it was like an isolation house
Gotcha.
for the area. So we figured that might be where it is. So that story actually prompted us to look further into like what's the history of this building.
Yeah, yeah.
So these things that you miss throughout history, you know, now okay, let's actually delve a little deeper and try to find something.
Yeah.
So
That makes
there's really neat
sense.
stuff in there.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
You know, we've discussed on the podcast many times, me and my partner Sher, Lower Fort Garry, the history, and because history and hauntings, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, hand in
Yes.
hand for sure. And anyway, so we have a hard time. And I mean, whether, you know, the province would admit to it or not admit to it, like back in those days, right? If you were lucky enough that you had transportation, you had like a horse and wagon, but that wasn't always the case, right? I mean, you had to be rich and stuff. But like, you know, say when people passed away and died,
Yeah.
right? Like the closest cemetery around here is like really, really far. Like, I wonder if they ever excavated outside of the fort to find grave. There must be,
So actually, okay, so that's actually very interesting.
Yeah.
So the closest one is St. Andrews.
right?
So rectory, which
Right.
is not super far, really, and that was the church that everyone went to here.
Right.
But yeah, like it's not right. But also the part of that is that wasn't built right away either.
Right.
And there was a lot of people here before the Hudson's Bay Company came too.
Right,
Right.
right.
But
Yeah.
areas in this would be an area too, just like the Forks before the Hudson's Bay Company came was a general meeting place because two rivers meet there.
Of course.
Right. So it's like got a lot of history to it. So there is drawings that suggest one of the areas around here might be an old burial ground.
Okay.
And the story behind that actually comes from one of the workers here, Heather, who talks about she was driving home one night.
I see the light bulbs over these heads here.
And
going.
Beside me. I'm like, oh,
They're
I'd
like,
love to-
we gotta go.
I'd love to know what you guys know. So she was driving home one night and she almost hit a man that came out on the highway right by the fort.
Oh,
And she freaked out, obviously, stopped the car,
Yeah.
got out, tried to find the guy, couldn't find him.
Right.
So she was like, what? Is it, am I just tired? Like what, right? Gets back in the car, starts driving, looks in her rearview mirror.
sees him again.
He's in her back.
Oh
seat.
my God.
Like how freaky can you get, right?
No.
Like, just like beyond like that. So
Oh,
she,
yeah.
she freaks out. She's still driving and doesn't know what to do. She gets to sort of the edge of the site and he disappears. And so then what happens is the next couple of weeks as she's driving back and forth in the evening, he'll show up sort of where the the creek starts and then he'll disappear
Oh.
sort of at the north side of the site.
So we're gonna go for a drive tonight before we go home.
Back and
right?
forth, back and
People.
forth.
Are you listening
Yeah.
since you're driving?
I mean, I'm
So-
in the back seat, so,
she
it's
doesn't know
you're
what
with
to do.
somebody.
Yeah, like it's just like can you
I
imagine,
welcome
like,
the company.
Oh, jeez.
So she doesn't know what to do, so she actually overhears a couple of weeks later, like a medium was at the site and talking about stuff, and she's like just trying to listen. And she says, you can tell them like to leave, right? Like if you're not happy, you can tell them to leave, to stay where they are. You're not welcome in this space. So she says she drives by them, a couple of nights later. He shows up again. She looks him in the eye, through the rearview mirror and says, "You're not welcome here. Please
Yeah.
leave. I don't want to see you again." And he's gone. He disappears.
Wow.
So what? Like that never made sense because everyone's like, why are there people wandering around there? I guess it was just someone who lived here and is wandering around. But there is an old drawing of where the trees are between the highway and the fort walls, and I don't know where it is anymore, but I remember someone found it.
Yeah.
That said that could possibly be an old graveyard underneath
Right,
those trees.
right.
They might have buried people there at some point.
See, because our logic too, like, whether it's like modern times or back then, usually when people are living somewhere, they don't want their dead relatives too far
Yes.
to visit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't just more so of convenience to have like, oh God, we gotta get rid of this body kind of burial.
Right.
It's more so they want them close by to visit.
And also, if it's winter,
Where are you gonna
that
put the
trek
bodies?
is going to be
Yeah.
way harder
Yeah.
to make.
And the other thing too is if this area was used as an isolation for cholera, and they had a
Yeah.
lot of people die, a lot of times they just do.
That's
Yeah,
right.
a mass grave.
Yeah,
it is exactly
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And the fact is, when you think about where it is, it's the west gate. So it's the gate between Highway 9 and the fort. It's in that space. That is not the main gate, because the main gate is the one against the river. So
Right.
they're not planting, people are like, oh, but this is where everyone walks in. Like, no, it actually isn't.
No.
Right? So you can think about that, okay, that makes sense too, instead of somewhere else. And then north of the fort was a whole bunch of farmer fields. So they're not digging up to put bodies in farmers' fields either. Right? So
Then you got a poltergeist
that's
thing
the
happening,
space. Yeah.
bones popping through,
yeah.
and yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, there's these things you find.
I know how my mind just, I know.
It's good fertilizer.
It's good. That's why you hang out with
Yeah, I know. It's just normal to me. I don't know.
That's why we
Like-
become friends.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So,
that's why
okay,
we
so
go.
you guys have been out here. What happened when you came out with the ghost tours, the square peg ones?
Well, she's, like, I mean, for me, when I came, the last time I came for the Square Pigs tour, we just started the podcast, so me and my husband came out, and I think that's when we first met you briefly. You don't remember, but it was, it was a crazy night. It was, it was a crazy night, but it was interesting because I was touched in the fur trade building. Like
Okay.
I had some touching happening.
Okay.
Things always do touch me. Like I think last night.
Yeah, you said last night, too.
I guess I could have told you, but we were at the St. James Museum last night,
okay.
and I had like a stabbing pain in my ribs here for about half an hour in the what was it, that building, the
Interpretive sense?
in the interpretive center.
Okay.
So I'm like, it's just nothing, shake it off. But I think it was something. Anyway, so I've been touched in the fur, my leg, like a trap was around my leg. That's
Okay.
what it felt like.
Yep.
For some weird reason. And then the table tipping, the table came towards
Yes.
me. That was the extent of my experience. So, but Kelly probably has lots of stories.
Yeah. Well, I help Kristen when I come out here with her, and it's the big house that has the old jail cells and everything, right? Is that
No,
the big
that's
house?
the warehouse. The
That's
big
the
house is like the
warehouse.
fancy living space.
Okay, so it's the one that was just opened back up.
Oh, that is the big house, but there's
I thought there was cells in there.
there's a basement.
Oh, maybe.
A huge basement.
There's
Love
a
the
huge
basement.
There's a couple
Okay.
of pantries, like big room pantries. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the big house. Because you guys just opened it back up.
Yes, this
The
year.
last time we went in there, they were just like, this is a surprise. We're going to get to go in
Yeah.
there tonight. And I remember going in there before it was closed. So that must have been before COVID, right? Because it was closed for a while.
I was gonna say
wasn't
it's I think 2019 was the last year it was open.
It's weird
Yes.
how time
Because-
has been
Who
since
knows?
during COVID, right?
Well, none of
A
us
blur.
aged either during that time.
No,
I know.
Okay, good.
Because
Miracle.
I remember that, like, I know, like, some of the other buildings, yeah, I've had kind of experiences, but that building,
Yes,
like,
that's the one I've
every
had the most
time
in.
I've gone in there, and then the last time I was in there, Kristen she was doing her thing, and I kind of separated off, because I was like, there's something going on again in this building. Like, I want to hang out in there for a long time, because I want to be able to, like, really
Okay, so
figure
I
out.
just heard her tell us she wants to volunteer with us now.
I do.
Cool, fine.
Yeah.
'Cause,
I think you can all sign us all up. Yeah.
Because Kristen doesn't stay in there too long.
Yeah.
Like, she does her thing and then she moves on, and I'm like, oh, no.
No, and I truly feel that you have to be in an atmosphere to actually
yeah.
see and feel things. You
That's
can't
why I
just not
should
15
volunteer.
minutes.
Should be
and that's honestly
volunteering.
why sometimes I say like the big house, because like I find like I have such a strong like personal connection to it now, because I feel like it's my little house. And
Of
like,
course.
it has to be taken
Yeah.
care of.
Of course.
This is my home,
Yeah.
right? And
Very-
so I feel like them are like, oh, you love this place like
I
that.
think it's the speaker over
It
there.
is. There's something about it that
music.
Yeah, it's
It's
the
the
speaker.
Okay.
there's something about some of those places that definitely draws you in. But that one house, and then I went downstairs, and I was like, "Did you hear that?" And the person I was with, because we were locking it up, it was a person that was like volunteering here that night,
Right.
or working here that night. And I'm like, "You didn't hear that? You didn't hear somebody knocking?" She's like, "No." And then I heard somebody even like whispering to me as well, and I'm like, "You didn't hear that?" I was like, "How did you not hear
And
that?"
those are things like
And she's looking at me like,
Yeah.
I would hear that too, and then be like,
I
oh,
don't
it's just the
know.
wind,
'Cause
or
she
I
was
just someone's
you know,
talking over there, and I think
yeah,
it's,
she
I'm
was
just
just
hearing
doing her
them.
Yeah.
thing, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh no, there was somebody like
Yeah.
in here with us,
Well, there's
and
a
I felt
lot
that
of
in there
people in that
before,
Mm-hmm.
especially in like the basement and that dining room, that big.
It's the mess hall.
Yes,
Were you guys there? So I've taken the Square Pigs tour a couple of times. Were you guys there when you talked to the military man in the red coat? Were you there for that one? And you did the glass moves?
I was there. That was 2019, I think.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was right near the end. I
Yeah, it was
I
July.
can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that was interesting. Because I remember, sorry, that was not the one I was at, but my friend was at that one, and they kept talking about this man in a red coat and wanting to talk to someone who was in a red coat. And so we had the RCMP here, right? The Northwest Mounted Police
Oh,
started
yeah.
here.
Yeah.
And so that's where sort of that connection we figured comes in. And this gentleman that took you guys on the tour played in the Northwest Mounted Police here during the day sometimes. So they couldn't understand why they wanted to talk to someone, because
Yeah.
no one there was a police officer, but that's
Right.
because the
They recognized
staff
him as
was
such.
one of the ones that
Right.
played them.
Right. Yeah.
So it was funny because he tells us the story the next day, and we're like, Matt, it's you. We all figured that out. How
Yeah.
did you not figure that out, right?
Yeah.
So,
You know what would
Yeah,
be,
there's so much activity in
Yeah.
all these buildings.
but you know what would be really interesting if at one point, say Carolyn can get you guys in to go investigate and just spend some time in a building with because they have their gadgets,
Yes,
right? They
yeah.
have
Yeah.
their
I see a bunch here.
yeah,
This is just a small sample.
yeah, their spirit boxes and stuff, because sometimes like they ask questions, they get answers like that. It's
Yeah.
insane. And the right answers, right? Like
Okay.
And it
Yeah, that
is
would
so
be fun. I mean,
active.
something we'd
Yeah.
have to work out with Parks Canada.
Of course.
It's their site, and
Yeah.
we'll go
Yeah.
from
Who
there.
was here? Was Scott here? Do you remember Scott from Ghost Hunters
Yes.
International?
Scottish?
Scott.
His
No,
name is
Scott.
Tepperman.
Yeah.
I'm
Joe
trying to remember their
Chin.
names. I could go watch the
Oh.
movie and remember their names.
Yeah, we should watch it.
There was the lead guy was a nice Irish fellow, and then there was a Scottish man with him, and then I remember Kristen.
Oh, I remember those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't them. Huh.
I just don't remember their names. I'm sorry.
Because we've hung out with them when we've gone down to the States
Yeah.
to do
They
investigations.
were really
and
awesome,
stuff.
actually.
Yeah,
and one of the
everybody's
things I
so
thought
nice on
so
those-
cool
on those
was
ones.
they were so into it. They had their own equipment.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that you ladies do the same thing. Like you design things and make it and build it to do stuff. And I'm like, this is really interesting.
Like, we always tell people, like, because people are always like, are you liking those shows? I said the closest we are would be Ghost Hunters, because
Yeah.
they're just,
chill.
Down to earth.
they're down to earth. They do what people actually do
Yeah.
on investigation.
They
yeah,
don't-
they just set things
Right.
up.
They
and do
don't
their
threaten the
stuff.
ghosts,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know.
they don't run around
like,
and say, I'm possessed, and, you know,
Yeah.
all that other
Yes.
garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're really, Yeah, they're really
Yeah.
cool people.
But it's funny you say about creating your own gadgets. We had that conversation yesterday about maybe trying to figure out how to make our own spirit boxes. I was watching YouTube videos before I went back to sleep at 7
She
o'clock
has
this
somebody
morning.
looking for transistor radios.
There you go.
So, yeah,
I know
we're-
what to do now.
We're on it.
Yeah.
We're on it.
So,
Yeah, you should take one of our cards, and then that way, if you
Yeah, I'll email you, and then we're good to go, and we have a connection then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
sweet.
That would be awesome.
An email connection, not just the connection we're having right now.
Oh, no, this is a
This
connection.
is a true.
This
That's
is
right.
all connection.
Yeah.
Don't ever.
All connection.
Yeah, don't dismiss it. Don't
Yeah.
dismiss
No,
it.
I'm not. I'm just saying that I need to make an actual physical email one too now.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, my
Oh, that's
cell,
really cool.
my cell is on there, so you can just text
So
me.
Winnipeg Paranormal. Oh, you guys have Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not on Instagram too much, but you're on Paranormal Collective.
Yeah.
but-
Paranormal Collective
Yeah.
is on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's neat.
Yeah, so many socials, it's just so hard to keep up
Yes,
sometimes.
it
It
is.
really
Yeah.
is.
I agree.
Well,
Because we
we-
do the one for this, and it's
We've got a couple, right? Like we've got Winnipeg Paranormal,
Mm-hmm.
and then Kelly's working on Paranormal Collective,
Yeah.
which is trying to share like working collaboratively with other groups
Yeah.
and things
That's
like
cool.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's visiting us. Look at that. The
Is
lights
that
are
what
going
that's
off.
for?
Yeah. They're touching.
But only those ones.
That's awesome.
I'm not on, but I don't have on, whatchamacallit, plane mode, but
no,
I'm not
you really
near.
have to grab onto those to make
Those
it
ones
go,
are hard.
remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's exciting.
That's exciting.
Why am I not doing video right
You
now?
come into this visitor center at night, and I gotta tell you, there are sounds that are in here that are not.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet there
Yeah.
are. Yeah.
Did I
believe
miss
it.
something?
And remember to live every day like it is your last.
And never give up the ghost.
Excellent. Thanks, ladies. Have a good night.